Waste management stock is up 15% year to date, and the earnings only boosted that momentum. And looking at their earnings, things look pretty good with a beat on EPS and revenue. For the upcoming quarter, analysts are also very optimistic. Another reason why people like WM stock is because of the dividend, and I understand why with a decent 1.36% dividend yield, and it is also growing. The 4 years aren't correct, but more on that later in this video. And if we look at the total returns in the past 5 years, we see that waste management stock outperformed the S&P 500 by a decent amount. So could this be the perfect time to buy WM stock? Well, by the end of the video I will give you my 3 price targets, so make sure to stay tuned and see how I build up to these price targets. And more importantly, which price target is the most justified in my opinion. And I'm very excited to see what you guys think about this stock, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments. My name is Thomas and this is Thomas Invest. I'm an investor looking for great stocks at great prices. So what does waste management do? WM ranks as the largest integrated provider of traditional solid waste services in the United States. Operating 259 active landfills and about 337 transfer stations. The company serves residential, commercial and industrial end markets and is also a leading recycler in North America. In here we see the earnings report. Revenue was reported at 5.2 billion, up from 4.9 billion in 2022. It's a small increase, which is the positive thing here. Income from operations is at 785 million, also a small increase versus 2022. However, the EBITDA margin decreased slightly versus 2022 and the net income is also down a little bit year over year. Bottom line EPS is up a tiny bit due to share buybacks. In total, the revenue increased 5.7%. But this was primarily driven by a core price of 7.3%. Operating expenses as a percentage of revenue improves 240 bps. In total, waste management returned 593 million to shareholders, including 312 million in share buybacks and 281 million in dividends. For the full year of 2024, Waste Management expects revenue growth to be around 6 to 7%, which is pretty nice, and EBITDA margin to be in a range of 29 to 29.4%, expanding 30 bps, which is also nice. Another interesting thing is that WM expects to spend 2.2 to 2.3 million on capital expenditures and 850 to 900 million on high return growth projects. The board also indicated that they are likely to increase the dividend with 20 cents. This will be the 21st consecutive years of dividend increases, and not the 4 years that Seeking Alpha is displaying. On top of that, WM expects to repurchase 1 billion of common stock in 2024, which is really nice. And now that we know a bit more about the company, it's time to check the fundamentals of this stock. But first, if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you a lot for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to receive multiple analyses every week. And also join my Discord channel for free to meet other people within the community and to talk about stocks. It's completely free, so don't miss it out. Let's continue by diving into the fundamentals. Waste Management stock is a 83 billion market cap company. PE ratio is at 36, which means you pay a heavy premium for the stock. Later in this video I will show you my 3 price targets for WM stock, so make sure to watch until the end. And in the meantime, please let me know your thoughts on the current valuation. Revenue is at 20 billion, and in this graph we see that revenue went up in the long run. However, it is not always steady and consistent. Margins are going up in the long run, but again, it's not really steady and consistent. However, most recently they are capable of keeping them quite steady. It's the same story with the EPS. To me, it is looking pretty decent. Analysts have a positive feeling for the EPS in the coming years, with 12 to 14% growth, except for 2027, which feels a little bit random. For the revenue, it is also looking pretty interesting, and analysts expect 5 to 7% growth in the coming years, which to me looks pretty decent. Return on assets is sitting at 6%, which is a great number. Return on equity looks really good, and the most important number, return on invested capital, is sitting at almost 11%, which is a great number. It is also higher versus the 5-year average, which is something that I really like. Current ratio is at 0.9, which is a decent number. Nothing really special to mention here, to be honest. Right now, Waste Management has 17 billion in debt, and I prefer companies that can pay down at least a big chunk of their total debt with the total cash. WM has 450 million in total cash, so they can't pay down a decent amount of their debt. To me, this looks pretty bad. So it is very important that free cash flow is growing, since this is used to pay down debt of course, but also to buy back shares, pay dividends and all other things. And here we see that free cash flow is going up in the long run, which is looking pretty good. But it is not really steady and consistent, so keep an eye on this number as well. Shares outstanding are decreasing, which is something that I really like. But you could argue if this is the smartest thing they could do with the share price at a premium. But when shares outstanding are decreasing, it increases your ownership in the company, increases the EPS, lowers the PE ratio, and makes it easier to maintain and increase the dividends. And since we're talking about dividends anyways, dividend yield is sitting at 1.36%, which is a decent number. Annual payout is at $3. Payout ratio is around 45%, and I prefer 50% or lower. So right now they have 55% left in cash to buy back shares, pay down debt, do acquisitions and all other things. The 5-year growth rate is at 3%, which is a low number. To me this is a little disappointing. But Seeking Alpha isn't really displaying this correctly, since Waste Management has 21 consecutive years of dividend increases, and not the 4 years displayed here. And in here we see that dividends paid since 2012 are looking a little bit different. You see that WM did increase the dividends at a decent pace. So the 3% growth rate feels a little bit incorrect, since the 2019 decrease isn't really a decrease. But in 2018, WM paid a supplemental dividend. Payout ratio is a very important metric with dividends. It tells you if the dividends are safe. In here we see that annual payout ratio is somewhat steady between 45 and 55%. In this graph we see the expected dividends in 2024, 2025 and 2026. Of course this is an estimation and can be highly impacted by results, but it gives you a rough indication. It's expected to increase at a similar rate versus previous years. Overall these dividends look really good to me, but how about the historical returns? I decided to compare Waste Management stock with the overall market, in this case the S&P 500. Next to that I added RSG. On the 5-year chart we see that WM beats the S&P 500 by a decent amount. In total WM returned 122% including dividends, while the S&P 500 was sitting at almost 100%. RSG had the highest return with 156%. On the 1-year chart it is pretty much the same story. Both WM and RSG have beaten the S&P 500 again with a decent amount. On the 6-month chart it is again WM and RSG that beat the S&P 500. This time WM had the highest return. On the 1-month chart it is still WM and RSG that beat the S&P 500. So bottom line, in the past 5 years both WM and RSG have beaten the S&P 500. So could this be the perfect time to buy Waste Management stock? Well, let's check the 3 price targets that are created using the Everything Money software, which is one of the best tools out there. I'm using a low, mid and high assumption to get the 3 price targets, starting off with revenue growth. For the revenue growth I'm filling in 4, 6 and 8%, based on historical performance, their own outlook, but also because of the analysis. For the profit margin I'm putting in 11, 12 and 13%. For the free cash flow margin I'm putting in 10, 11 and 12. For the PE ratio I'm putting in 20, 23 and 26. For the price to free cash flow I'm putting in the same numbers. I'm willing to pay a premium for the biggest waste management company, but I don't want to overpay here. My desired annual return is 12% since I can get an easy 10% average annual return with owning an ETF. Right now, waste management stock is around $206. I hit analyze and we see a lot of red numbers. We have a low price target of $80 to $88. We have a mid price target of $111 to $122. And we have a high price target of $155 to $167. To me, the mid to high price target is the most justified here, indicating this stock is overvalued based on these numbers. So what do you think is the most justified price target here? Let me know in the comments down below. My final conclusion on waste management stock is that I love the company, don't get me wrong. I used to own them and I still love them. I sold around $160 if I'm not mistaken. And of course I could have done a better job here since it is around $200 right now. But that's not the point. To me they look overvalued, and to be honest, for a company that is not growing that fast, I'm not willing to pay that heavy premium. From a dividend point of view, things look really good. It's a solid dividend payer with an impressive track record. Most fundamentals look good besides their debt, but the valuation seems to be off. So for now, I'm waiting for the stock price to come down, and in the meantime I will keep analyzing them from time to time. And remember to always do your own research and never fully trust on what I or other YouTubers say about a stock. I'm not a financial advisor and this content is just for entertaining purposes only. I hope you liked this video and I did bring some insights of the company to you. I would really appreciate a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to get notified when I'm posting a new video. Thanks for watching and I will see you in my next video.